Well, here I am. Mahalo, aloha, Maui. My heart is so with you still. How are y'all doing? I'm doing great. I definitely have a rant stream coming up here, and I need to do it soon because I need to get off the Facebook and be ranting there. It's a bad idea. Just saying, it's a bad idea. Excuse me. I do have a special surprise for you guys later today. Hopefully, it's going to work out. I've asked my best friend who lives in Idaho and does a weekly Bible study if she would throw the camera on and let me stream her study and join her. And so that's going to happen today. My time 2:30, so that's 2 hours from now. So if you like that sort of thing, Shay is so funny, you guys. And between her and her man, the knowledge of the Bible they have is incredible. Hi, Benjamin. And she's really serious and she doesn't offend easily, which is great. And she has a huge homestead full of animals. So should be a good time. Should be a good time. So if you want to meet my best friend, which if you don't, I'm just saying, it's really your loss, okay? Because she's a hoot. She's great. But right now, I'm streaming out of Humboldt County. My name is Deanna, if you didn't know that. And I'm streaming out of Humboldt County, about Humboldt County to Humboldt County usually, but not when I'm doing this study. Although part of the stream that I do want to do, I already know it's going to be called like In Your Face, because what we have is we do have an open predator who was just arrested. And we need to put that on blast. I need to put that on blast for my friend James and for all the kids and all the parents and all the people who think that supporting the Sisters of the Perpetual Indulgence is a good idea, like our mayor. Yeah. Let's see what you're going to say about this. So that'll be later too, after the Bible study. I got a lot to say, okay? We got a lot of stuff to talk about. And like I said, Facebook is not the place to do it. And I'm focused on this study at this time for all of your sakes. If you want to see a good rant, I promise I won't scream. Some people will say I'm screaming, but they don't know because I've actually never screamed on camera. There's yelling and there's screaming, and there's a difference. So we are in session 12. We're wrapping up session 12. Yay! We're wrapping up session 12, you guys. Hi, Bonnie. Good to see you. There are 31 sessions in this course, and it's starting to get a little meatier. It's taking me a little longer to get through. I start at about 10:30 now, and I get 2 hours in, and yet here we are. So with most of my answers filled in, I did read it all, and I do have the answers. They're just not like all written down, but I do have the answers. I do know them. Indy, hi, love. Good to see you. So we're here to learn. Yay! I got some smart friends. I got some smart ass friends, you guys. Ha ha ha. Also, I do want to share some more footage of what's going on in Maui. Of course, I've been getting a lot of videos, and so there's a lot to talk about. That's all part of the In Your Face stream I'm going to do. In Your Face, and it's going to have things about Humboldt County, and it's going to have things about Maui, and it's going to have some things that are very similar as I sit here with smoke and fires all around me right now. You should see the skies today. There's fires somewhere. I don't really know where they are, but they're around here somewhere. Okay, so let me share my screen with you where we're at. So if you don't know, you can follow along on standuphumboldt.news. Oh, let me actually share my screen with you. But yeah, 2 hours from now, really grateful. Oh, graceful. She's so good. I've really just grown to really love her. What a beautiful voice she has too. Do you not have a wrench in here that you could drop that? You could certainly drop that if you like to, Indy. I really hope you have a wrench in here. You should have a wrench in here. Miss Golden Wrenchy. I didn't know anybody that had more wrenches than you for a time. You know what I mean? That's because, you've earned those wrenches. That's for sure. Okay, yeah, you do. Hi, Scrimshaw Rose. Good to see ya. Good to see you. It's been a minute. Welcome in to learn. Yay. You're here with all the smart asses. Yeah. All right, here we go. We're going to the Constitution. This is actually really interesting, you guys. This is when I learned a lot just now. I'm still digesting it, taking it in. I really learned a lot about the regulations of when the dates of things were really taken over. Commerce turned into regulations, turned into the government controls everything. I mean, this is really, so we're on 15 through 21, and hopefully I can just get through these in a good pace that's digestible and not too boring. Try to make it exciting. I get excited about it, so hopefully that passes on, that energy. Okay, 15, explain the all-inclusive nature of the federal government's power to regulate commerce with foreign nations. And let me open up another tab here so we can have the questions on one side and we can have the pages I uploaded where the answers are. So provision 82 from Article 1, Section 8 is the answer, and I'll just read this in its entirety. This provision gives Congress the right to represent the people of the United States in regulating commerce with other nations. This is an exclusive and sovereign power with nothing reserved to the states. In a technical sense, this authority did not have to be granted by the states because it came automatically as a plenary power with the creation of a national government. In other words, it is a power inherent in any sovereign government to deal with foreign nations. And then there's some interesting stuff here. In 1807 to 08, President Thomas Jefferson cut off all trade with Europe. This was attacked on the ground that federal regulation must always be to preserve commerce, not destroy it. The Supreme Court held that this power is all-inclusive, and the Congress may decide when it is in the public interest to have the president terminate certain foreign commerce. And then they get into some questions here, but we're going to go back to question number 16. Why was Congress given authority to regulate commerce between the states? And then right here it says the people of the states empower the Congress to regulate commerce between the states in provision 83, Article 1, Section 8. This provision gives the Congress the right to create a common market of free trade between all of the states and regulate interstate commerce of all kinds. Let me see what else I have there. I underlined the answers instead of writing them down. I'm so glad I got all the pictures of the pages before my answers are there. All right, let's see. Yeah, and then the answer's right here. It was clear to many of the delegates that unless the regulation of interstate commerce was placed in the hands of the national government, the states would wreck the union with their petty regulations designed to promote local prosperity at the expense of the general welfare. Oh, we're going to see how this all, what was intended to protect us, how it changed. It went from commerce to regulation. That's what we're going to really learn about today. I was really pleased with what I learned, but I know I'm still digesting it. It's a lot of information. So 18, name several major aspects of commerce in which the federal government has exceeded its constitutional authority to regulate the American economy. This just goes on and on. So let me see what I got down here. I know I wrote something down here. Oh, yes. Wait, did I skip number 17? Did I skip 17? I must have. Whoops. Hi, my name is Dee. Did you know that I'm learning this study along with you. I have to mention at least one time. Next time I start over, I'll actually say I'm teaching it, but right now I'm learning. So, and even if I was teaching it, I guess I could skip a number because I'm a human. I'm not an AI. 17. This is the one I really want to talk about. With regard to the Commerce Clause, explain the government's shift in emphasis from commerce to regulation. And that has to do, of course, with the word interpretation. And this word in this case is instrument. It has to do with instruments of interstate commerce. So right here, let me go back one paragraph here. The word commerce has been interpreted by the Supreme Court to cover every species of movement of persons or things, whether for profit or not, every species of communications, every species of transmission of intelligence, whether for commercial purposes or otherwise, every species of commercial negotiation, which, as shown by the established course of the business, will involve sooner or later an act of transportation of persons or things or the flow of services or power across state lines. Yeah, it just goes. This is where we lose it all. This is where we lost it all. And the government took control of everything. Everything. As you'll see right here, there's a question inside our answer. How extensive is the regulatory power of the federal government over interstate commerce? The Supreme Court has held that it covers all of the instruments of interstate commerce: navigable rivers, interstate highways, interstate railroads, pipelines, transmission lines, radio waves, telephone lines, and telegraph wires. Just as the word commerce has been interpreted to include every species of persons or things, so the instruments of commerce have been defined as including any mode, whatever, by which persons, things, or communications are carried interstate. Whew, they really went with this one, let me tell you. According to the Supreme Court rulings, the government is empowered to adopt measures which will protect, foster, control, constrain, or prohibit commerce for the welfare of the public, so long as the due process clause of the Fifth Amendment is not violated. The government has powers as broad as the needs of commerce may warrant. It includes flood protection and watershed development, and it has even been held that the government can use the water to develop power and sell it to help recover the costs of improvements. If a waterway is not naturally navigable until dams are built and improvements made, the federal government can erect a dam and thereafter has authority to regulate the dam, reservoir, and resulting waterway as though it had always been navigable. But in Southern Humboldt, when a man wanted to put power on his own land with his own stream, they told him no. So there's a lot in here about power, electricity. I'll try to get through what I've underlined because I kind of want to skip around some of this. The government has the power to establish and regulate interstate highway systems. It need not build these highways directly, but may charter private corporations to do it. The government may also exempt these federal franchises from taxation. Now, the railroads, this is where we know this. This is where we lost a lot of it because at first, the courts held up the authority of the states to supervise the lines within their jurisdiction. But as a result of the panic of 1873 and 1885, hundreds of the small railroads went into bankruptcy and were consolidated into vast interstate systems. Since the states thereby lost their jurisdiction over the railroads, it passed to the federal government, which responded to widespread public demand and passed the Interstate Commerce Act in 1887. This legislation authorized a commission of 5 men to pass upon the reasonableness of the rates charged by railroads for the transportation of goods or persons. By 1910, the Congress had not only authorized the Interstate Commerce Commission to rule on what would be reasonable rates when a complaint was made, but to take the initiative and determine maximum reasonable rates, whether a complaint had been filed or not. And then we get into the Transportation Act of 1920. And that's when they took more control, whether by motor, railroad, or water carrier. The government regulates the issuance of securities by these interstate companies and determines the acceptability of proposed plans to consolidate existing companies or charter new ones. We just get into a lot of power grabs here. These dates are just power grabs. We got the Supreme Court just throwing out all kinds of rulings regulating gas and oil pipelines, even though the pipeline is used exclusively in transporting the products of the pipeline owner. So they took that away from the states and took it over. 1927, the court held the government had exclusive regulatory authority over interstate electric transmission lines and can regulate the price of such electricity. In 1935, Congress created the Federal Power Commission to govern the pricing and regulating of all wholesale distribution of electricity among the states. In 1938, the commission was authorized to set the prices on gas originating in one state but transported to another for wholesale distribution. 1934, the Federal Communications Commission was set up to license and regulate all interstate and foreign communication by wire and radio. This commission proved to be extremely susceptible to political pressure and eventually used its so-called fairness doctrine to virtually wipe out any educational programs designed to alert the public to subversion or corruption in government. Whenever a station allowed charges against persons or organizations to go over the air, that station was required to give the accused equal time free of charge to answer. Obviously, stations promptly eliminated all such programs to avoid a serious loss of revenue. During certain administrations, the FCC has also proved extremely biased on religious, racial, and political issues, which ran counter to current government programs or policies. This led to a gradual deregulation of the FCC to make its policies more acceptable to the public. In 1938, the Civil Aeronautics Act was passed, under which the Federal Aviation Agency and the Civil Aeronautics Board were set up to regulate all phases of airborne commerce, foreign and interstate. For various reasons, this government program was reduced and eventually eliminated in 1985. And then they go into Standard Oil, how, it's like, oh, well, they're too big. We better break them up. And then other companies got even bigger after that. So it reminds me of how Humboldt County government used to tax property owners. They taxed them somehow on, their acreage. But then when they passed, oh, you got timber on your land? Well, we're going to tax you on your timber on their land. The very homestead that I'm on had to sell off. They at one time owned 238 acres. And they had to sell it off, whittled down to about maybe 79, 80 acres. And then after the lumber companies were able to scoop up all those properties, they changed the tax code and they didn't have to pay those taxes anymore. What a racket. What a sham. Their regulations. They went from commerce to instruments to we're controlling it all. We're controlling every form of energy, every way you move, every email, phone call. They have it all. It's really a bit much. Did I answer that last question though? Let me see. Commerce to regulation. You get the idea, right? You could read on. There's a lot more to read on, but I'm going to move on to 18. Name several major aspects of commerce in which the federal government has exceeded its constitutional authority to regulate the American economy. And so here we go. Price regulations. They fix the rate for railroads, interstates, bus lines, and waterways and shipping companies. The Agricultural Market Agreement Act authorized the government to fix minimal prices on certain products. Remember when they screwed the farmers and old Willie Nelson had to come out with Farm Aid? Yeah. The government is not here to help us, people. Federal government has fixed prices on gas and oil. Deregulation of oil in 1981 permitted prices to be substantially reduced as a result of competition in the marketplace. Deregulation will always be better for us. so long as you keep yourself educated. Are you a self-governing, self-educated individual, or do you need to be spoon-fed your information? I don't. I know I reject mainstream media, all your talk radio. You are all sellouts, all of them. That's these people's mouthpieces. You need to listen to real people. They're telling their stories. They want you to notice them. And I'm not talking about me only. There's lots of people that I would like to shine the spotlight on and do. This ain't about me. This is about getting people away from mainstream media talking points, taglines, agendas, trends. You just see it. You just see people just turning into little puppets. It's sad. Turn off the TV. What was going on when all this was going on? Were Americans just having such a great time, or wars going on? This is, I got to go back to, because it's saying beginning in recent years. So when was this last copy written? This is an old study, 90s, I think. Because it's talking about, in recent years, we've done some deregulating. 2007 was the last time. Beginning in recent years, the federal government began deregulating interstate trucks, airlines, and telephone lines. The results were so positive that deregulation in other areas of commerce is, contemplated. The founders would applaud this trend. But then 2008, something else happened. Something else like a BO. Next. Oh, we didn't even talk about, here we go. We're exceeding. Here's where they abuse the Commerce Clause, right here. This has to do with Hamilton and Madison and their polar opposite views of what that general welfare clause means. And what is very interesting here to me is how it said how each side, depending who's who's the side in power, they'll take those interpretations. Hamilton's or Madison's. It's this clause. A number of theories have emerged from the ongoing debate over the unconstitutional abuse of the Commerce Clause to permit the federal government to invade states' rights. Many of the arguments are based on the varied interpretations of the General Welfare Clause. Hamilton and Madison disagreed over the meaning of the General Welfare Clause. It will be recalled that Hamilton argued this clause gave the federal government unlimited power. How ridiculous. They didn't set a government. Okay, I'm sorry. Try to keep my opinion out of it and just read the answers. I really need to do a rant stream. That's what I need to do. Unlimited power to do anything, which was for the general welfare. Madison argued this clause was a restriction on the federal government's taxation power, and it could levy funds only for the purpose of carrying out its enumerated powers for the general welfare. So it could not be more opposite. Yeah, right here. Each side has supported its position with theories and principles which have been called doctrines. Excuse me. However, each side has ignored or overthrown the doctrines of the other when it happened to be in power. So frustrating. We obviously are supposed to have a limited government here. I don't understand how that could have ever gotten confused. That's why it's important to understand the doctrines and supporting these various decisions by reading Publius. How do you pronounce that one? He was Hamilton, John Jay, and Madison in the writings of the Federalist Papers. And that's what I'm going to be getting into learning about that. But here are some examples right here of abuse of the Commerce Clause. No. Doctrines relating to the protection. These were the protections the states are to have. Production is always local and under the exclusive domain of the states. 2, commerce among the states. Interstate commerce does not begin until goods commence their final movement from their state of origin to that of their destination. 3, the sale of any product is merely for under the domain of the state because its effect on interstate commerce is merely incidental. And that has to do with human beings. I'll read a little bit about that. 4, combinations or associations organized for the sale and distribution of goods are under the regulatory power of the state, since the effect on interstate commerce is indirect, not direct. And it was very interesting. The conclusive answer is that the evils are all local evils over which the federal government has no legislative control. When it's talking about working conditions and people, it's talking about employers and employees matters, working wages, the right of collective bargaining, the resulting strikes, curtailment and irregulation of production. Well, they've decided that that's where they need to come in here. Well, this is indirect. The wages are paid for those doing local work. Working conditions are obviously local conditions. The employees are not engaged in or about commerce, but exclusively in production of a commodity. Such effect as they may have upon commerce, however extensive it may be, is secondary and indirect. But that is how they got in there. When they go on strikes, they make it a federal issue. The Supreme Court says when industries organize themselves on a national scale, they make their relation to interstate commerce the dominant factor in their activities. How could it be maintained then that their industrial labor relations constitute a forbidden field into which Congress may not enter, when it is necessary to protect interstate commerce from the paralyzing consequences of industrial war? This now includes all major industries in the country. This is the unconstitutional. This is the answer to the question. Contrary doctrine supporting the completely dominant role of the federal government in regulating the entire field of commerce have been as follows. 1, anything affecting the current of commerce, from manufacturing to distribution, is under federal authority. 2, commerce includes all aspects of selling, trading, and trafficking, as well as interstate transportation. Therefore, the federal authority extends to every aspect of commercial activity connected with interstate commerce. 3, the federal government can regulate any activity which affects interstate commerce either directly or indirectly. It can therefore fix prices, wages, working conditions, health conditions, and the retirement of employees. All interstate industries automatically come under federal authority for the purpose of intervening in strikes and labor relations. And that's where I started reading. Okay. 20. What are the arguments given to justify the federal government in regulating all aspects of the American commerce? Did I just not read that? Yeah, I just read that. 21, last question. Describe the loss of states' rights under the theory that gives the federal government a dominant role in regulating commerce. Let's see if I even got some of this. Yeah, we got some lots of answers on the next page. I don't know if I want to read them all, but I'll read some. The second set of doctrines set forth has been the basis for the wiping out of traditional states' rights in the field of commerce and giving almost exclusive centralized authority over American business life to the national government. Let me read that again. What we just read up there, what those logics, those interpretations, these things that have been allowed to be, have been the basis for the wiping out of traditional states' rights in the field of commerce and giving almost exclusive centralized authority over American business life to the national government. Not only has it virtually destroyed the concept of separate spheres of power, but also the concept of a limited federal government. In many areas, it has destroyed the element of genuine competition and the determination of prices by the law of supply and demand. To appreciate the lengths to which collectivization has been taken, we mention the following examples. 1, in the famous Shreveport case, the government imposed rates and other regulations on railroads which were operating entirely within a state and shipping freight much more cheaply than federally regulated railroads. 2, the federal government took over the regulation of waterways, which begin and end inside a particular state on the ground that commerce intended for interstate shipment was being transported on these waterways. 3, the federal regulation of employees working exclusively in local railroad yards has been upheld by the Supreme Court. 4, federal regulations governing employees working on the manufacture and repair of railroad equipment to be used in interstate commerce was held to be part of the current of commerce. 5, federal labor relations have been held to be applicable to a local auto dealer on the ground that he was an integral part of the national distribution system. My favorite. That's my favorite. Congratulations, you auto dealers. 6, the Fair Labor Standards Act, which the Supreme Court has sustained, was designed to place the whole matter of wages and hours of persons employed throughout the United States with slight exceptions under a single federal regulatory scheme, and in this way completely supersedes state excise, the police power in this field. Yeah, well, we don't care what you say, state. We're the federal government. We're here to help. 7, the federal government amended the Agriculture Adjustment Act in 1941 to regulate production even when the goods are not intended for commerce but are to be entirely consumed on the producer's farm. Farmers have been confined in jail for violating provisions of this act. That's why I'm pissed off. We let this happen. What was going on? Why did we let this happen? Why? It is important to appreciate that every single federal regulation was designed to provide fairness, reasonable prices, safety, competition, higher standards. Unfortunately, a century of experimentation and governmental intervention to achieve these seemingly desirable goals has more often than not had the opposite effect. Great study today, kids. Great study. One last quote from Madison here, what he wrote here. The U.S. should be a national common market with no state assessing duties on export or import trade with other states. The defective power in the existing confederacy to regulate the commerce between its several members in the number of those which have been clearly pointed out by experience. Without this supplemental provision, the great and essential power of regulating foreign commerce would have been incomplete and ineffectual. A very material object of this power was the relief of the states which import and export through other states from the improper contributions levied on them by the latter. Were these at liberty to regulate the trade between state and state, it must be foreseen that ways would be found out to load the articles of the import and export during the passage through their jurisdiction with duties which would fall on the makers of the latter and the consumers of the former. It would nourish unnecessary animosities and not improperly terminate in serious interruptions of the public tranquility. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I got so worried. The desire of the commercial states to collect in any form an indirect revenue from their uncommercial neighbors must appear not less impolitic than it is unfair. So it's just both of their views on the taxing and levying, Hamilton and Madison, so opposite. Competitions of commerce would be another fruitful source of tension. I mean, Hamilton believing that the government has unlimited powers is just so ridiculous to me. I can't even take him seriously anymore. And have recently said so. He's a pain in the ass, isn't he? He really is. He really is. Hey, Carolina. Oh, I got a headache, babe. Well, I hope I didn't make it worse. Have been known to do that. States should trade with each other and stop foreign trade. Amen. Amen. They really should. Hey, Dad, it's good to see you. We have everything we need right now. I mean, right here. And now we're going to see Maui. You see Maui coming together. I did see a really great video. Let me see if I can find it and leave you with the Island Spirit taking care of themselves. They have set up their own distribution center. They are definitely making it happen. And let me see if I can find it in my history. I gotta change. Oh no, probably. I don't know. I think it's different. It doesn't find it if you were on your phone, does it? Oh yeah, it does. All right. Yeah, this was a good on the ground in Maui. Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard, actually, is what I was looking at on the ground in Maui. It looked good. I don't know if is she their rep? I didn't even know that. But let me see. We need some good news. Don't we need some good news? Is there good news? Let's see here.
Uncle Archie Kalefa's, and he thought his house burnt down, but it didn't, fortunately, and he's using it as a hub, and they have probably the most supplies of anyone, like generators. I think these guys are the most well equipped. Yeah, Roman. So yeah,
they're also the closest to where the fires were. So
yeah, got all our water out here.
Good to see, Ryan. Good to see. Pray for Maui.
Our stalls over there with generator and pump. Try to keep the
I heard the Cajun Nation was on their way too. Cajun Nation.
Yeah, for sure. Fire into that.
I'm thinking Heavy D Sparks might need to show up too. You know what I mean?
I mean, they come and they say people need it.
We try to do rounds and go to people's houses and ask what they need first, just to keep in here less cluttered. And how many families are in the area? 102 homes, two burned out of the 104 in this. Yeah. And so the last time we had of people still here was 2 days ago. I think it was 160 people. So we do dinner and then last night we in that sidewalk over there, you see the speaker stand. They had live music going.
Oh, is that so? Sounds crap. Sorry. All right. Well, I'm just gonna leave that link for you. I wanted to share some good news with you guys. It's not all bad, you know. There's gonna be out of the ashes they'll rise, and there's a lot of bad news, but it starts with just knowing the truth, and then it starts with coming together. And I mean, the truth about what they needed, the truth was to survive, right? The truth matters. There's a lot of deceptive lies out there, and it matters to know the truth for a lot of reasons. It matters for a lot of reasons. So yeah, I just pray for Maui, God. Please help those people, God. Help these families that have lost people. There's just no words. There'll be no comfort for some, but we know you're the great comforter, God. And I pray you pour out your spirit. I pray you protect us here in Humboldt, Shasta, Butte County, all around California. Lord, these fires, they're scary. Between that and the Cascadian subduction zone and the earthquakes, D is on the edge, Lord. You know this, Jesus. Help me. Help anyone else who feels like I do. Help us to just do what we need to be doing right now. Help us be your hands and feet, God. In Jesus' name, amen. Love y'all. See you next time. Bye.